Today we're going to spend some time talking about one of the big snowstorms that took place back in March of 1959. And because February this year has seemed more like January and we've had some more snows, I think we're kind of knowing a little bit more what it was like, bringing back some of those old memories. And we'll be talking about an article that appeared back in the Bloomington Record newspaper. And I'll be reading a paragraph or two here first from the article. Then we'll be kind of zooming in on some of the pictures that appeared in the Bloomington Record. And as we go along, we'll also be looking at a few other pictures, different times, but to give us an idea of what it was like on some of the side roads in particular. This is the March 5th, 1959 snowstorm. The article begins, Bloomington and all the surrounding area are nearly normal after the worst storm in 25 years, literally paralyzed the village for over 24 hours and the rural area for nearly a week. Winds of 35 to 40 miles per hour caused heavy drifting in the rural area where all roads running east and west were filled level with the fence tops. Drifts ran as high as 18 feet in some places. Now I might just mention briefly that I was a junior attending Wazeeka High School over in Crawford County. The same storm showed up there, and we had problems there with highways just as well as over here in Grant County. So I did get to eyewitness and see some of the things, and I can remember day after day, boy, is school going to open up or not? They still can't get some of the ridge roads open and that. So I can kind of speak from both directions on that. In our second paragraph here of the article on Bloomington, Bloomington Public School closed Thursday morning just 45 minutes after opening, and buses started to take the children home as the storm steadily increased. 3 of the 4 buses made their runs all right, and were back in town by 1 p.m. But the bus driven by Warren Bailiff had been stuck 3 hours when the county grader, which was assisting him, broke down. Now, another bus driver, Robert Brott, then picked up the children on the bus who had not reached home and brought them back to town. Some of them did not get home until Saturday, and classes were not resumed until Wednesday. Now the next lines, and we'll zoom in on some of the pictures here in the Bloomington Record, showing what it was like in the village. There's 3 different scenes there. Newspapers, of course, from those days, the pictures weren't the sharpest, but I think it gives you an idea of how cars were practically buried in the snow, and I will be mentioning that here in just a moment. And you see another one here with the car and trying to show some of the depth of the drifts and so on. Now we'll be going to another page here. And this one will show Charles Pritchett, and the line there was drawn on the photograph because it was hard to show the difference otherwise, of how high that snow was, how high the drifts were in that picture. Now I'll continue on here a little bit about the village. Residents of the village who had driven their cars to work Thursday morning were unable to drive them home at noon, and by the next morning the cars were buried under 18 inches of snow. There was no mail service after Thursday morning until Saturday morning, and then it was like Christmas all over again. Outgoing mails to Bagley were not delivered until Saturday afternoon, and the Glen Haven mail was not dispatched until Sunday noon. No rural deliveries were made Thursday and Friday, and only those living adjacent to the main highways were able to get their mail before Monday or Tuesday. Highways in all directions were blocked by Thursday noon, and out-of-town persons found themselves stranded. All rooms at the hotel were filled by noon, and others took refuge in private homes. Now at this point, to give you some idea about the country, now some of the pictures that we'll be looking at are going to be from 1929. But the way it's like in some of the side roads where banks were higher and roads could get filled in so very quickly, it gives you an idea of what it probably was like back in '59 also. And one of the pictures that we see is a little bit later, I think about the beginning of the 70s somewhere, going down Fairgrounds Road. Now the picture always referred to it as North Road. When I first came, everybody called it North Road, but there is a different North Road in the township. So this is heading south there, past the Moss residence on the left there, coming down the Fairgrounds Road, and that was one that was always a problem because of being north and south. The east and west winds had lots of fun with it. And even when John Cooper was at Bloomington as administrator at first, he would try to drive up that road to see if he could get through. Later on, the bus contractors made the decisions about school closings and that, but that was one of the test roads to try out. Now I'll be reading here a little bit more about the highways here. Milk and more milk accumulated in rural areas as the trucks were unable to make their pickups. Some farmers improvised a way to get their milk to the main highway by Saturday. Now some different ones were mentioned here. I can't mention all of them, but I'll say this. Some carried cans of milk one by one to the highway, and others fed it to the pigs or just threw it away. The local creamery, which ordinarily has 5 to 6 vats of milk per day during the winter, had only one full vat on Saturday. Now here it mentions about what they did at one of the local grocery stores. Mrs. Alfred Critchlow and her daughter Fran Hoffman baked 30 loaves of bread plus dozens of buns Friday and Saturday to supply customers at Hoffman's Grocery when bread trucks were unable to get through the drifts. Now the last thing is a little bit sad. I don't mention any particular funerals involved, but it was difficult trying to get people out so they could attend. The elements had no respect for bereaved families and funeral services. In one instant, a crew of men with shovels and a township grader worked the greater share of the day Sunday, opening 3 miles of blocked road to a home so a family could attend services for a family member. And like I said, this is one that people remember for a long time. We'll be doing a part 2, which will be talking about a couple later ice and snowstorms, but we figured this is long enough for one of your videos here. And also there on one of the pictures is the snow plow that existed from the county back in 1929. So you can see they were used to trying to get through some big drifts for quite a while back then also. 29 seemed to be one of the years. We're getting into the Great Depression and when things were so dry, but there was a winter or two where snows were bad. And again, you can see some of the vehicles back there in 29, what it was like on some of the roads. We did have one picture, but it curled up so bad on us that we wondered why anybody ever got out there. They would never get back out again. It looked that bad. But it was, and then sometimes two were trying to get by one another. That didn't always work so well either. And there is a picture that we had, we don't know the exact date, but it has to be a long time ago, because it shows how the old bridge over to Brooklyn looked, and you could see sort of like one path there going up over the knoll, over the hill. So it's quite a few years back, and I'm sure it wasn't much fun getting over there at times too in some of these snowstorms. So we'll go back to, in part 2, 1973, and we'll be talking about 1976.